Hey guys, tonight we travel so far back, the world isn't even carved into nations yet, just open land, long shadows, and names older than memory. You'll walk barefoot through ancient soil still wet from the dew of creation. The stars aren't clustered in constellations, yet they're scattered, wild and fresh, like someone flung them from a divine hand only moments ago. And somewhere in that misty twilight of early Genesis, a man appears. Enoch. A man who walked with God and then vanished. You wouldn't survive this age. Seriously. There are no antibiotics, no coffee, no memes. People live 900 years, but you'd probably last 9 minutes. But Enoch, he doesn't just survive, thrives. Quietly, almost invisibly, until he doesn't. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love seeing how far and wide this sleepy little tribe stretches. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the edge of a world still soft from its making. The mountains are bare, like ribs of the earth. Trees are taller, the wind sharper, and the names here. They don't echo, they resound. Adam, Seth, Methuselah, and then tucked quietly into Genesis chapter 5, there's one that doesn't behave like the others. Enoch, he doesn't get a conquest. No epic wars, no talking donkeys, no parted seas, not even a detailed backstory. Just a record that he lived 365 years, yup, same as the days in your yearning, then he walked with God and was no more, because God took him. That's it. 10 verses. That's all you get in the entire Old Testament, which frankly feels a bit like God left the most interesting part out of the movie script. But sometimes mystery is the point. You watch him now, Enoch, quietly tending sheep in long robes, sandals worn smooth from walking. He listens more than he speaks. While others chase harvests or build settlements, he pauses to gaze at stars, to notice the patterns in things. His eyes are older than his face, and when he prays, it's not desperate or loud. It's like talking to a friend he's known a long time. He's the 7th generation from Adam, which isn't just a genealogical detail, it's symbolic. 7 is sacred, completion. Enoch stands at a hinge point between Eden and something darker on the horizon. You feel it in the wind, the way animals watch from a distance, and the growing silence from the heavens. And then he walks. It becomes a thing. Every evening after tending his family, he heads off alone, into the hills, into the trees. No weapons, no company, just long walks, often at twilight. You follow him one evening. The sky is stained copper, the kind of dusk that makes you forget time exists. Enoch's steps are slow, intentional. You don't hear him praying aloud, but his breath moves with the rhythm of something intimate, like he's not just thinking about God, he's with him. And this is where scholars get fidgety. What does it mean to walk with God? Is it metaphor? Is it literal? Did Enoch physically stroll beside a pre-incarnate Christ? Was it just spiritual closeness? Some Jewish traditions whisper that Enoch wasn't even human by the end, that he'd been transformed into an angel, Metatron. That's not a Marvel villain, it's a real concept from mystical texts. The scribe of heaven, seated beside God's throne, glowing with divine knowledge. A little fringe, sure, But let's be honest, this whole thing is fringe, because eventually Enoch stops returning. One evening, his family watches him disappear into the tree line like always, and that's it. He doesn't come back. No funeral, no tombstone, no he lived and he died like every other patriarch, just absence, sacred and confusing. You sit now on that hillside, long after the sun's gone, listening, wondering, and you can't shake the sense that he didn't vanish. He just walked a little farther than usual, stepped out of time, and maybe he's still walking. After all, Genesis doesn't say he died. It says he was no more, which, in the language of ancient mystery, might be the loudest silence you'll ever hear. You wake to a world even older than before. The stars are higher, the earth heavier. You're in the days of early men, when time still drips like honey slow and thick. These are the generations of giants, whisperings, and names that roll off the tongue like thunder in a canyon. Jared, Mahalalel, Lamech, and Methuselah, the man who will live longer than anyone in the Bible. But you notice something off. The air feels like it remembers something you've forgotten. The birds fall quiet when you walk near. And deep underground, you swear you feel movement not of creatures, but of memories. It's here, in this half-lit realm, that Enoch walks the earth. He's not famous yet, not like Noah will be, not like Abraham, but something about him seems calibrated differently. He doesn't hunt like the others. He listens. When others count livestock, he counts stars. While men build tools, Enoch builds questions. You sit near him under a fig tree as he murmurs to himself, eyes locked to the horizon. That hill will one day flood, he says, like it's just weather. You raise an eyebrow. He doesn't explain. He never does. The people of Enoch's time live absurdly long lives, 8, 9 centuries. You'd think that much time would make them wise, but you begin to notice something strange. Time doesn't always equal wisdom. It just means more chances to wander. And wander they do. Some, like Lamech, sing songs about revenge that echo across valleys. Others begin to mine metals, forge weapons. A few whisper about beings who came from the sky's watchers, the Nephilim, giant offspring born from unions between divine and human. It sounds like campfire myth until you meet one. Yes, he's tall, 7 cubits, maybe more, but it's not his size that unnerves you, it's his eyes. Sad, deep, like he knows he shouldn't exist. He doesn't speak, but you feel judged. The book of Genesis barely glances at this moment. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful. It trails off like a half-told story. Scholars still debate whether these were angels or simply powerful rulers. But either way, something divine crossed a line, and the ripple of that trespass runs deep through the land. And Enoch, he starts writing. That's the part people forget. Enoch isn't just a walker, he's a scribe. You find him scratching lines into clay tablets by torchlight. The symbols are unlike anything you've seen, strange, angular, almost electric. You ask what he's writing. Instructions, he says. Testimony. You press him. For who? He pauses. For generations that are not yet born. You get the sense he's not being poetic. He means you. Enoch sees something coming. You feel it too. The sky's a little darker. The animals are more skittish. People have begun speaking in riddles and dreams, and some don't speak at all anymore, just stare, like they're hearing things too deep for language. The world is drifting, not breaking yet, but leaning toward it. And then one night, Enoch climbs a hill alone. You follow at a distance. He speaks into the wind. The watchers descend again. They teach what should not be taught. He turns to you, his voice low and heavy. They show men how to make blades from stone, how to draw blood from their brothers. They reveal the names of stars that were meant to stay unnamed. You don't understand it all, but your spine agrees with him. It's the beginning of something awful, and Enoch is the only one trying to record it before the flood comes not of water, but of forgetting. When you look again, he's gone. Only footprints in the dirt leading toward the eastern sky. And the giant you saw earlier, he's kneeling beside a stream watching fish dart beneath the surface. He looks up, and for just a moment, you think he might be praying. You open your eyes in a room with no walls, a vast echoing chamber made not of stone but of stars and wind. Enoch stands before you, not older, not younger, just clearer. He's holding a scroll, but the symbols on it shimmer and squirm like they don't want to be read. Welcome to the part of the story that your Sunday school teacher probably skipped. This is the book of Enoch. Not Genesis, not Exodus, something older and in some circles forbidden. It didn't make the cut. Not in the Hebrew Bible, not in the Protestant canon, but the Ethiopians, they kept it, cherished it, preserved it in a language that hums like ancient thunder. And now you're reading it with Enoch himself. The scroll unrolls and you fall in. Visions flash by like lightning behind your eyes, mountains that float, angels bound in fire, stars that scream. You're not dreaming, you're in his visions. The ones he wrote down while the world around him rotted like fruit left in the sun. You see angels teaching humans how to read the stars, how to fashion weapons, how to apply makeup, yes, eyeliner, believe it or not, gets a biblical side eye here. Apparently, even mascara has a cosmic consequence. In the Book of Watchers, the first section of the Book of Enoch, walk through a courtroom in the clouds. Fallen angels are on trial, chained and weeping. Enoch is the messenger, the go-between, the only human invited into this divine drama. You start to understand why this book makes people nervous. It's too weird, too loud, too true. Some scholars say the Book of Enoch was just Jewish apocalyptic fan fiction. Others claim it shaped key parts of the New Testament. And others fringe but persistent say it reveals truths we're still not ready to face. And then there's the real kicker. The New Testament itself quotes it. Yeah, Jude 1:14 literally references Enoch's prophecy. Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones, which means somebody, somewhere, thought this book was more than just a creative writing project. But back to the scroll. You're drifting deeper now. You see the tree of life, glowing and enormous, guarded by fiery winds. You walk into the crystal mountains, jagged and humming like organs from a fallen cathedral. You pass the abyss where certain stars are chained for disobedience, and you realize something that shakes you. Enoch isn't hallucinating. He's mapping the cosmic architecture of justice. While the earth below him gets tangled in violence and vanity, Enoch is cartographing the heavens. And yet, you notice something odd. In all his visions, Enoch doesn't seem afraid. Not of angels, not of judgment, not even of the abyss. He's calm, steady, like he belongs here. And maybe he does. After all, he's not just a prophet. He's becoming something else, a figure who slips between dimensions, a scribe of heaven, entrusted with secrets not even angels are allowed to share. You ask him, "Why are you writing this down if no one will read it?" He smiles gently. They will, one day, in caves, in scrolls, in YouTube thumbnails. Truth always leaks. You blink, and now you're standing in a dusty cave. A clay jar sits broken at your feet. Inside it, a fragment of an ancient scroll. It's in gaze, the ancient tongue of Ethiopia, and the ink still clings like a whisper. You've just found the Book of Enoch, and as you gently touch its edge, you feel something shift not in the air, but in your awareness, like someone far above just marked your presence with a glowing quill. Careful now. You're not just reading history anymore. You're being watched. You tumble downward not metaphorically, but with a gut-twisting lurch that feels like falling through stories, through time. The ground is smoke. The sky is stoned. And in this strange middle realm, you land in the heart of a secret war. The players, the watchers. Once angels. Now, something else. You see them before they voluminous beings stationed on the slopes of Mount Hermon. They were sent to observe mankind, to watch. That's it, not interfere. But you've seen how that goes. Some say it started with curiosity. Others say it was envy. But the ancient texts, including the Book of Enoch, are blunt. They lusted. The daughters of men were beautiful, and the angels, forgetting their place, descended. You're there behind a grove of cedars when they swear their pact. 200 of them, binding themselves to this rebellion. Names that sound like thunder underwater. Simjaza, Azazel, Arachiel. They burn with strange light and human hunger. You shiver as you realize this isn't mythology. This is cosmic treason. And from this union, the Nephilim are born. You remember the one you saw earlier, tall, somber, out of place. Now you see others. Some are kind, confused. Others are cruel, vicious from birth. The world begins to fracture around them. What began as fascination becomes infestation. The watchers don't stop there. They start teaching humans things they were never meant to know. Azazel shows men how to forge weapon swords with edges that gleam like curses. Others teach enchantments, root cutting, astrology. And yes, one teaches the art of beautifying eyelids. Strange detail, but it sticks, as if even vanity has celestial consequences. You walk through a village one dusk and see fires burning unnecessarily. Men sharpening blades that have never touched a harvest. Women wearing color around their eyes, glancing sideways at the sky. And somewhere hidden beneath all this new knowledge is a growing sense that the ground itself disapproves. Then Enoch is summoned, not by humans, by heaven. He's the only mortal allowed to speak with both sides, with the fallen and the divine. A cosmic stenographer, ferrying words back and forth between realms. You follow him up a mountain. The air thins, not from altitude, but from purity. He reaches a clearing, and suddenly you can't see. Just feel like light and sound have fused into pressure. And then a voice that's not a voice speaks through him. The watchers are condemned. You hear the decree. They will be bound, their children destroyed, their legacy buried beneath floods and fear. And yet, something in you flinches at the sentence, not because it's unjust, But because it's irreversible, you watch Enoch deliver the message. He doesn't yell, he doesn't gloat, he weeps. He writes down their petitions, their cries for mercy, carries them up again, but heaven is silent. Their fate is sealed. You wonder how much of this Enoch actually understands? How much does he grieve for them? He seems torn, like a man watching an avalanche from above, unable to stop it, but unable to look away. And then he writes again. This time not for heaven, not for the watchers, but for you. He records the story of the judgment, the names, the crimes, the curses. He's not trying to entertain, he's trying to warn. And as he pens these final words, you realize he's not just chronicling punishment. He's trying to slow it down. He's interceding, one man against the tide. That night, you lie beside a small fire, staring at the stars. They don't twinkle, they pulse, steady and cold. And for the first time, you wonder, what if every star is a witness? What if the sky remembers? And what if beneath all our progress, our learning, our technology, we're still just repeating the mistakes of angels? You roll onto your side and whisper toward the trees. Enoch, are you still watching us? Somewhere far off, a breeze shifts. The trees sway, just slightly. And you sleep, not entirely alone. You wake in motion. There's no camp, no sky, just the soft crunch of dirt beneath your feet as you follow him Enoch on what will be his final walk. He doesn't say where you're going. He just walks. As if his steps already know the path. As if gravity itself is leaning towards somewhere that isn't quite Earth anymore. His robes don't stir with the breeze. They seem to hum. You sense that something irreversible is unfolding and you're not supposed to blink. Remember earlier when people just lived and died? Lived 900 years, raised kids, then vanished into tombs made of sand and memory? Not Enoch. The book of Genesis breaks its own rhythm to make this clear. And Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more, because God took him. That's it. No death, no burial, no bones. Just gone. Even scholars get twitchy around that one. Some say he was raptured, caught up into heaven like Elijah would be centuries later in a whirlwind of fire. Others believe he never died at all, that his body was transformed, upgraded, passed through dimensions like a password known only to the divine. And then there's the wilder side of ancient lore texts like 2 Enoch, which claim he ascended through 10 heavens, each stranger than the last, until he stood before the face of God and was transformed into an archangel, Metatron, the voice, the flame, the human who became divine administration. Too fringe? Maybe. But you're standing here now, walking behind him, and things feel different, lighter. The color of the trees is wrong. The sound of your footsteps is echoing in ways it shouldn't. He turns to you. You won't be able to follow much farther, he says gently. You try to speak, but your mouth is dry. You're not even sure if you're breathing anymore. He continues. The ground I'm stepping on now, it isn't made for flesh. You look down and he's right. His feet don't leave imprints. He's walking on something else now. Not soil, not air, something thinner than matter but denser than truth. He doesn't glow. He doesn't rise into the sky like a superhero. No lightning, no thunder. It's not dramatic. It's quiet. That's what stuns you the most. God doesn't take him in spectacle but in stillness. You hear it, in your chest more than your ears. A low hum. It's not coming from above. It's all around. Like the boundary between dimensions is breathing in, just once, to receive him. And Enoch, he keeps walking. You try to follow, but your feet are like anchors. Your breath catches, and you know this road isn't yours. You're a witness. That's all. One more human left behind, watching the last footprints of a man who was never meant to die. When you look up, he's gone. Not in a puff of smoke, not in a flash. Just gone. And yet, you feel something in the air, as if the molecules around you remember him, as if the wind itself is a little wiser now. You walk back down the mountain in silence. No one believes you. Not really. They ask where he went, and you shrug. How do you explain that a man became less physical than breath, more real than memory? Methuselah, Enoch's son, doesn't ask. He just nods, like he always knew. And the world keeps spinning. Babies are born, fields are sown, giants fall, rain will come, arks will float. But Enoch, he walks still. Not in your time, not in your space, but somewhere just adjacent. Some rabbis say he never left at all. That sometimes, when the veil is thin, you can feel him watching. That he might be the one who writes down your name in the book of life. That he waits, not for death, but for the day when all things are made whole again. You look up at the stars. One of them pulses, slow and steady. Maybe that's him. Maybe he's still walking. You blink in, centuries pass. Now you're standing not in Genesis, but in the shadowy pages of the New Testament, where whispers of Enoch resurface, like echoes that never truly died. The world has changed. Rome rules with iron. Pharisees argue in candlelit rooms, and scrolls are being copied by calloused hands, one stroke at a time. But Enoch, he's still around. Not physically, not in the bustling streets of Jerusalem or beneath the Roman eagles, but in the words, the warnings, and the odd little footnotes that scribes couldn't quite erase. You crack open the tiny epistle of Jude, tucked right before Revelation, and there he is. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied. Wait, what? He's quoted directly, not figuratively, not symbolically, like a prophet, like his words still carry weight. He says, "The Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone." It's judgment language, apocalyptic, dramatic, and it's not even in Genesis. It's straight from the book of Enoch, the one the church didn't canonize but clearly read. You lean back. So Enoch wasn't forgotten. He just went underground. He appears again in Hebrews 11, the Faith Hall of Fame, right alongside Noah, Abraham, Moses. It says he pleased God and that he was taken away so that he did not see death. The writer even throws in a subtle flex. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. In other words, Enoch didn't just disappear. He was rewarded. And you can feel the quiet ripple of that idea. That Enoch's vanishing act wasn't about escape, it was about trust. A man walking so closely with the divine that mortality just lost its grip. You imagine Enoch peeking into the early churches as they gathered in homes, reading letters by lamplight. He sees them wrestling with theology, dodging Roman suspicion, whispering about hope and resurrection. Maybe he smiles. Maybe he nudges a parchment here and there, just enough for someone to stumble on his name again. And then there's Revelation. Now that book's a fever dream dragons, plagues, trumpets, but buried in all that cosmic chaos is a concept, two witnesses. Prophets who stand in the last days, clothed in sackcloth, breathing fire, performing signs, and eventually being killed in the streets of Jerusalem, only to rise again 3 days later. And the theories? Oh, they're spicy. Some say it's Moses and Elijah law and prophets. Others insist it's Elijah and Enoch, the only 2 men in scripture who never died. You feel your pulse quicken. Could it be? Did Enoch not vanish, but wait? Could he still be on heaven's payroll, biding time until the final act? You picture it. The crowd gathered in fear. The skies blackened, 2 figures appearing at the center of chaos. Not celebrities, not warriors, just men. One in camel's hair, one in ancient robes, eyes lit with stars, and both with messages older than language. They speak not of doom, but of alignment, of reckoning, of mercy too long delayed. And when they fall slain by a beast rising from shadows, the world cheers. But heaven isn't done. After 3 days, the wind shifts. They rise, and maybe, just maybe, Enoch dusts off his feet and looks around like, missed the walking. You close your Bible and sit in silence. Is any of this certain? Number? Scholars still debate the identity of the witnesses, the dating of Jude, the legitimacy of Enochian texts. It's a foggy puzzle with missing corners. But you feel it anyway. That hum, that thread connecting early Genesis to late Revelation, from garden to apocalypse. And right in the middle, a man who never died, a man who might be back. You step outside into the night, the stars are out again, one blinks, you nod politely, just in case. You close your eyes, and when you open them again, time has thinned. You're not in Eden, not in Jerusalem, not even in a place you can name. This is the in-between, the hush before thunder, the breath before a final word is spoken. And across this silence, the question rings out, quiet but impossible to ignore. What happened to Enoch? You've walked with him through clay roads and visions of heaven. You've seen his name buried in forbidden scrolls and whispered in the halls of the early church. You felt the shape of a story that refuses to end. But here, in the dark stillness of now, you start to wonder if Enoch's story isn't just history. What if it's a mirror? Because Enoch didn't just walk with God, he walked away from everything else. From violence, from noise, from the gravity of a world spiraling into flood. He lived in the same corrupted earth, but he wasn't absorbed by it. That part, that's the challenge. We're obsessed with what happened to Enoch, where he went, how he left. But maybe the real mystery is what was happening inside him all along. He didn't build cities. He didn't conquer. He didn't leave commandments carved in stone. But he left a different kind of mark of life, so aligned, so quietly calibrated to the frequency of the divine, that when the time came, the veil simply let him through. You walk now through modern streets, buzzing with neon and notifications. The stars are harder to see. The ground is louder, but the call is the same. Walk, not perfectly, not quickly, just faithfully. Every step a soft echo of his. And what if it's not just a story about him being taken? What if it's a map? You pass someone on the sidewalk who looks tired but kind. You nod, They smile. The sky darkens a little, but not ominously, just gently, a reminder that night is part of the design. The hum in your chest grows warm. He's still walking. Somewhere beyond time. Maybe just a half inch beside your own shadow. And when your last breath comes, whenever it comes, maybe it won't be an ending. Maybe it'll just be your own next step. And someone will look around puzzled and say, "Where did they go?" So now, just rest. You've wandered through ancient scrolls and glowing visions, through strange books and quiet hillsides. You've seen angels fall and prophets rise. You've stood beneath stars that don't flicker anymore and heard names whispered by both heaven and earth. And through it all, you've walked beside someone who never stopped walking. Enoch didn't fight dragons. He didn't part seas. He didn't shout from mountains. He simply walked. And maybe that's enough. In a world that asks for louder, faster, brighter, maybe the sacred act is in the quiet step, the faithful turn, the unnoticed but unwavering alignment toward what is good. So take a deep breath now. Let your mind loosen its grip. The sky is still above you. The stories are still inside you. And maybe, just maybe, the path before you is more enchanted than you've been told. If you ever feel forgotten, remember this. Somewhere beyond the edges of what we call real, a man is still walking, still writing, still watching. And you, dear listener, are never far from his gaze. Let the silence take root. Let your breath slow. Let the hum carry you gently now into the quiet places between stars and sleep. You are safe. You are held. You are not alone.